What if everything you believed about where to find a quality handbag has been wrong this entire time? Not slightly wrong. Completely, expensively wrong. Because the same bag sitting in a boutique at $300 is sitting at Marshall's right now for $80. Same leather, same stitching, same factory, different store, different lighting, different shopper. The woman who knows this has been quietly building the best handbag collection in the room. 10 bags. Here's exactly what she knows that you do not. Number 10. Fossil leather tote. Most shoppers walk past the fossil section at Marshall's without breaking stride. That is the entire reason the bag is still there when they arrive. The name does not carry the cultural weight that stops a shopper mid-aisle. And that is precisely the problem. Because the construction inside that bag is doing something the names that do stop shoppers frequently cannot match. Fossil built its hardware standard around watches, around the engineering precision required to produce a movement housed in a case that maintains water resistance, dust resistance, and impact resistance across years of daily wear. That standard does not get reduced when the same brand produces fittings for a leather bag. The solid brass and solid steel components across the Fossil tote range do not tarnish under skin moisture and environmental salt at the rate that zinc alloy hardware does. They do not develop the lateral wobble at the D-ring that cheaper alloy hardware develops within a season of regular use. The leather upper is genuine top-grain leather, not full-grain, which appears higher on this list, but top-grain leather that retains enough of the hide's natural character to develop a genuine surface evolution over time. Rather than the peeling and cracking that bonded leather and corrected grain alternatives produce at the same price points. The interior organization reflects the same functional discipline that the exterior hardware does. Multiple card slots built into the lining as original construction rather than retrofitted afterthoughts. A key clip positioned where it can actually be used without excavating through the bag's full contents. A zip interior pocket with hardware sized for real hands rather than product photography. At Marshall's, Fossil leather totes run between $50 and $85 against original retail of $100 to $160. The leather quality and hardware specification at that price point is genuinely difficult to beat from any other brand in the same aisle. The next bag is from a brand so associated with one specific customer demographic that almost nobody outside that demographic thinks to examine the construction underneath the association. The construction is the reason to stop. The association is a marketing accident that has been costing smart shoppers money for years. Number 9. Vera Bradley Leather Collection. Most people hear Vera Bradley and immediately picture quilted cotton, bright patterns, airport gift shops, cheerful casualness that communicates a very specific and very identifiable aesthetic. That association is so strong that the leather collection sitting on the same Marshall's rack has been invisible to most shoppers for years. Invisible, despite using a pebbled, full-grain leather with a body weight and surface character that the brand's cotton identity has never prepared anyone walking past it to expect. Full-grain leather, at a brand most shoppers categorized before they arrived at the rack. The hardware specification across the leather range is considerably above what the cotton line uses. Solid components rather than lightweight alloy. A closure system engineered for functional security rather than for the visual impression of security. The internal organization reflects decades of understanding how the brand's actual customer uses a bag through a real working day. Multiple exterior pockets sized for specific items rather than generic open compartments. A rear zip providing access to the most frequently needed item without opening the main compartment. An interior layout with enough structured division to function as a wallet replacement rather than requiring a separate organizer insert. The stitching at the handle attachment uses a box and cross reinforcement pattern rather than a standard bar tack. That reinforcement distributes the stress of the bag's loaded weight across a wider stitched area, with multiple directional thread passes that resist failure from different load angles simultaneously. It is the correct construction for a bag used daily for years. Most brands at this price point use the bar tack because it is faster and cheaper to produce. Vera Bradley's leather collection uses the box and cross because the design brief required the construction to outlast the season. At Marshalls, the leather collection runs between $40 and $80 against original retail of $120 to $180. At that price, with full-grain leather, solid hardware, and reinforced handle attachment, it is the most consistently overlooked genuine leather value in the Marshalls handbag aisle, not the most overlooked at this price point. The most overlooked in the entire aisle regardless of price, because the brand name is doing active work against the construction argument every time a shopper walks past without stopping. Something unexpected is about to appear on this list. A brand whose name carries enough recognition to stop any shopper in any aisle, but whose specific appearance at Marshalls comes with a caveat that changes everything about the purchase decision. Number 8. Kate Spade. Kate Spade at Marshalls generates one of two reactions: immediate excitement because the name is recognizable and the price is dramatically lower than expected, or immediate suspicion because the price is so much lower than expected that something must be wrong. Both reactions miss the actual question. Which production line is this specific bag from? Kate Spade produces two entirely separate product lines that share the same logo, the same exterior presentation, and sometimes indistinguishable colorways. The mainline collection uses genuine leather uppers, reinforced stitching at the handle attachment, a hardware quality that independent reviewers have placed consistently above what the price point strictly requires. The outlet collection uses different materials, different construction standards, and a different quality control process, and carries the same logo on the outside in a way that makes the distinction invisible without knowing where to look for it. The interior label is the verification that takes 30 seconds and removes all ambiguity. Mainline Kate Spade bags carry specific label language and serial number formats that the handbag community has documented across multiple forums and video platforms. A search before the shopping trip produces a reference image. That reference image in the store makes the verification immediate. The colorways available at Marshalls are frequently the less commercially obvious shades that did not sell through at full price retail. That is not a limitation. It is the retail mechanics reality that puts a mainline Kate Spade bag in excellent leather in a slightly unconventional color on a Marshalls rack at a price that the full price customer never had access to. If this breakdown is already changing how you approach the Marshalls handbag aisle, subscribe now, because every week this channel publishes exactly this kind of knowledge. The checks that take 30 seconds in the store, the distinctions that separate a genuine find from a purchase that reveals its limitations before the season ends. No sponsorships, no gifted products. Just the construction details and the verification methods that the brands hope you never learn to apply consistently. The next bag on this list requires no serial number research, no forum deep dive before the shopping trip, just one physical check that takes 5 seconds and tells you immediately whether what you are holding is worth the tag or worth setting back on the rack. Number 7. Dooney and Bourke Alto, or Florentine full-grain leather at Marshalls pricing. Those 5 words should stop any informed handbag shopper immediately, because full-grain leather at Marshalls pricing should not exist by the logic of how the accessible handbag market is supposed to work. And yet, it does, consistently, in the Dooney and Bourke Alto and Florentine collections that flow through Marshalls through the same overproduction and mainline retail return channels that bring every other bag in this store to this rack at this price. Full-grain leather is the top layer of the hide, the layer that retains the hide's natural grain surface. The surface that develops patina and character with age, rather than peeling, cracking, or wearing flat, the way every lower grade of leather eventually does, under the same conditions of regular use. It is the most expensive cut of leather available in commercial bag production, and the cut that most brands at accessible price points replaced years ago because the cost savings from switching to corrected grain, split leather, or bonded alternatives are immediate and financially significant at production scale. Dooney has maintained it. The Alto bags smell like leather at the hide level. They carry a weight in hand that reflects the density of a genuine full-grain hide. They develop surface character with use, rather than surface damage. And they communicate quality to anyone who has handled enough genuine leather to recognize what it feels like without reading a label. The saddle stitch construction throughout both collections uses a two-needle technique at every seam. Two simultaneous thread passes distributing stress across twice the contact area of single needle machine stitching. That structural difference is invisible in a product photograph. It appears in how the bag holds up at the handle, attachment points, and the strap junctions after 2 years of daily carry. After 5 years, after a decade. At Marshalls, Alto and Florentine pieces run between $80 and $150 against original retail of $200 to $350. One verification check before purchasing. Confirm the line name on the interior label. The Dooney Pebble Grain collection also flows through Marshalls and uses a lower grade leather than the Alto and Florentine. Full grain is heavier in hand than pebble grain at identical bag dimensions because the hide is thicker and denser. That weight difference is physically detectable in 5 seconds before the label is even read. The next bag on this list is the one that generates the most confusion at Marshalls. Because the name is so well known and the price is so dramatically lower than expected that the reaction is almost always suspicion before it is excitement. The suspicion is understandable. It is also, in this specific case, misdirected. Number 6. Tory Burch Fleming. Soft Tory Burch at Marshalls produces an immediate and predictable reaction in almost every shopper who encounters it. That reaction is skepticism. Because the price gap between the tag and the brand's normal retail positioning is large enough to feel like evidence of a problem rather than evidence of an opportunity. It is evidence of an opportunity. Tory Burch, like Kate Spade, produces both a mainline collection and an outlet collection that flow through different retail channels. The Fleming Soft collection specifically is mainline production. It arrives at Marshalls through standard retail overstock sourcing, rather than outlet-specific production designed for the off-price channel. The quilted leather uses genuine lambskin or high-quality pebbled leather depending on the colorway. The quilting stitching is the verification check. 30 seconds. Direct light. Even, tight, and consistent quilting across the entire bag face indicates mainline production. Uneven spacing between quilt lines, loose thread tension, or quilting lines that do not align cleanly across the panels indicate outlet production. That single visual check removes all ambiguity before the purchase decision is made. At Marshalls, verified mainline Fleming Soft pieces run between $150 and $210 against original retail of $350 to $450. At that markdown on genuine lambskin construction, it is among the strongest accessible luxury value finds in the off-price retail market. Not just at Marshalls, in any off-price retail market. The color on the shelf matters more for this specific bag than for almost any other entry on this list. Fleming Soft pieces arrive at Marshalls most frequently in the colorways that moved more slowly at full-price retail, not inferior colors. Colors produced in smaller runs that the full-price customer could not find consistently, even when she was willing to pay the full price. Same leather, same construction, a color the boutique customer never had reliable access to. The next bag is French. It has been solving a specific engineering problem since 1993, and nobody has improved on the solution in the 30 years since. Number 5. Longchamp Le Pliage. The Le Pliage is made of nylon. That fact causes most Marshalls shoppers to walk directly past it toward the leather alternatives on the surrounding racks. That is the wrong decision. It applies the correct general principle. Leather outperforms nylon to the wrong specific product. The coated nylon canvas Longchamp uses is not the nylon in a gym bag. It is an engineered construction developed by a brand that had been producing leather goods since 1948. A brand that understood precisely where leather's limitations were and where a superior technical material could outperform it at specific tasks in specific conditions. That material has allowed owners to machine, wash the bag without damage, to carry it daily through conditions that would end a leather bag of comparable price within a single season, and to use it across 10, 15, and in documented cases, 20 years of daily carry without the structural failure that terminates the useful life of every leather bag at a comparable price point. 20 years of daily carry at $50 to $85 at Marshall's. The coated nylon handles the body, the genuine leather trim, the saddle-stitched leather handles, and the solid metal hardware handle the stress points. The highest load junctions, where the handle meets the bag body and where the full weight of the loaded contents concentrates on every single carry, are reinforced by leather and stitching construction, not nylon. That combination is not a compromise. It is a deliberate engineering decision that uses each material at the specific task it performs best. The size decision matters more for this bag than for any other on this list. The small and medium are genuine everyday handbag replacements. The large and extra large require enough contents to maintain the shape the nylon canvas cannot hold independently when the bag is underfilled. Check the handle attachment stitching on any large or extra large before purchasing, both attachment lines. Even tight, consistent stitching indicates a piece that will carry that load for years. Any variation in stitch tension at that junction indicates a piece worth setting back on the rack. If you have been walking past Le Pliage bags at Marshall's because of the nylon, hit the like button right now, because this channel exists specifically to correct the assumptions that are costing smart shoppers money every single time they walk through those doors. The next bag has been producing American leather goods since 1982. And it is the most underrated construction argument in the Marshall's handbag aisle by a margin that the brand's cultural invisibility has been protecting for decades. Number 4. Brahmin Melbourne Brahmin has been producing American leather goods since 1982. Most people who have been buying handbags for 20 years have never heard the name. That invisibility is not a market failure. It is the explanation for why the construction quality inside this bag has not yet been corrected upward by the brand awareness premium that typically closes the gap between genuine value and the price the market will pay once the name becomes culturally significant. The Melbourne collection uses a full-grain leather with a croc embossing that goes into the hide rather than sitting on top of it as a surface coating. A surface-applied embossed texture is a coating pressed onto the leather surface under heat and pressure. It wears flat at the highest contact points within a single season of daily use. An embossing that goes into the leather deforms the hide structure itself. It maintains its definition through years of use because the pattern is the material's structure rather than a finish applied over it. The structured base holds the bag's shape independently, without requiring full contents to maintain the silhouette. The lining matches the exterior leather standard throughout the full interior, inside and outside, built to an identical specification. The saddle stitch technique throughout uses 2 needles simultaneously at every seam junction. 2 simultaneous thread passes distributing stress across twice the contact area of single needle stitching. The secondhand Brahmin Melbourne market is the most honest evidence available for the construction claim. Well-maintained Melbourne pieces from 5 and 10 years ago are reselling at 40 to 60% of their original retail price on resale platforms where buyers examine the bag in hand before purchasing. Those buyers are paying that price because they can see and feel what the construction produced across years of real use. A bag that holds its resale value holds its construction. The resale market is not sentimental about brand names. It prices what it finds, and it consistently finds Brahmin Melbourne worth pricing above what the brand's cultural invisibility would predict. The next bag on this list is one that most Marshalls shoppers have never once considered stopping for, because it does not look like the kind of thing you find at Marshalls, which is exactly why it is still on the rack when the smart shopper arrives. Number 3. Lodis Leather Organizer. Lodis is a Los Angeles-based leather goods brand that has been producing women's leather accessories since 1995. Nearly 3 decades of singular focus on 2 things: organization engineering and genuine leather construction at a price point the brand has kept deliberately accessible throughout its entire history. The organizer tote category is where that focus produces its strongest result. The interior construction of a Lodis organizer typically includes more than a dozen card slots, multiple zip and slip pockets positioned around how women actually use a daily bag, rather than how it photographs in a product image. A structured divider system that keeps the main compartment organized without requiring excavation through a single open cavity on every carry. The leather uses a full grain or top grain standard, depending on the specific line. The surface finishing uses a protective treatment that resists scratching and moisture penetration more effectively than untreated leather, without sacrificing the material's natural breathing and aging characteristics. That treatment is a specific technical investment that most brands at this price point skip entirely, in favor of a surface finish that photographs better and performs worse in actual daily use over the months and years following the purchase. The internal key clip is positioned at the top opening rather than at the base, where it would require excavating through the full bag contents to access. A small detail, an enormous daily convenience, and evidence that the people who designed this bag actually used bags rather than photographing them. At Marshalls, Lodis organizers run between $50 and $105 against original retail of $120 to $220. For genuine leather construction with professional-grade internal organization at that price, the value argument is among the most complete on this entire list. The next entry is from a brand that has been producing leather goods in America for 160 years. And what a century and a half of tannery relationships does to the hide quality available at Marshalls pricing is something the brand's understated marketing has never communicated at the volume the construction deserves. Number 2. Frye Leather. Frye has been producing American leather goods since 1863. 160 years of continuous leather goods production. 160 years of tannery relationships that give the brand access to hide quality at sourcing terms that brands founded in the era of performance outdoor lifestyle marketing simply cannot negotiate on equivalent terms. The full-grain leather across the Frye bag collection develops a patina over years of use that improves the bag's appearance rather than degrading it. Deepening in color at the handle grip points. Softening at the corners where the bag meets surfaces across years of regular setting down. Developing a surface depth that reflects the specific way light and friction have met that particular piece of leather across its particular ownership history. A 5-year-old Frye bag looks more intentionally beautiful than it did when it arrived. That aging direction is the most honest quality signal available in the leather goods market. A bag that improves with use was built from material that could absorb that use without structural consequence. Corrected grain leather does not improve. Bonded leather does not improve. PU synthetic does not improve. Full-grain Frye leather does. The hardware uses solid metal throughout, not the lightweight zinc alloy that produces tarnishing and wobble within the first year of ownership at most accessible brands. Solid metal. The stitching is a consistent saddle stitch technique at every seam junction, not the single needle machine stitching that reduces production cost and reduces structural integrity at the attachment points simultaneously. The lining quality matches the exterior construction standard across the range. No cheaper interior material introduced once the visible exterior has already passed the display test. Inside and outside. Same specification throughout. At Marshalls, Frye bags typically run between $75 and $155 against original retail of $200 to $350. At that price, with full-grain leather sourced through 160 years of tannery relationships, solid metal hardware, and saddle-stitch construction throughout, the value argument is the most straightforward on this list. Not the most surprising, the most straightforward. Because a brand that has been getting leather right for 160 years is not doing anything unexpected at Marshalls. It is doing exactly what it has always done. At a price that reflects the channel the bag ended up in, not what went into making it. One entry remains. It earns the top position, not through American heritage, not through French engineering, and not through century-long tannery relationships. It earns it through something no other brand on this list has managed consistently. A complete and honest disclosure of exactly what is inside the bag, priced as though the customer already knew. Number 1. Coach Legacy Coach is the most misunderstood opportunity in the Marshalls handbag aisle. Because it requires knowledge most shoppers do not have. And without that knowledge, the opportunity looks identical to the mistake sitting directly beside it on the same rack. Coach produces two entirely separate product lines that share the same logo, the same exterior hardware style, and sometimes indistinguishable colorways. The current mainline collection has shifted significantly toward coated canvas and corrected grain leather over the past decade. The legacy leather pieces, produced before the brand's major repositioning, surface at Marshalls through estate liquidations, warehouse clearances, and retail returns that flow into the off-price channel years after the original purchase. The distinction between the two is not subtle once you know what to look for. Legacy Coach leather uses a full-grain hide designated as Coach leather, developed through proprietary tannery relationships built across decades of production. That leather smells like leather. It is heavy in hand relative to its size. It develops surface character with use rather than surface damage. The verification is the serial number, a 7-digit code stamped directly into the interior leather of Legacy Coach pieces, not printed on a fabric label, stamped into the leather itself. That stamp format is specific to the production era when Coach leather quality was at its historical best. The handbag community has documented the serial number formats extensively across multiple forums and video platforms. A search before the shopping trip produces a reference that makes the verification immediate in the store. That 30-second check is the entire difference between a $40 genuine legacy find and a $40 outlet purchase dressed in the same logo. Both are real Coach bags. Only one of them is built from the leather that made the brand worth trusting in the first place. At Marshalls, Legacy Coach pieces run between $30 and $85 when they appear. Against an equivalent current market value of $150 to $250 for comparable full-grain leather construction from any other brand on this list. The Legacy Coach at Marshalls is not a guaranteed find. It is not on the rack every visit, but when it appears, the shopper who knows the serial number format finds it. The shopper who trusts the logo without checking leaves it behind. Both shoppers were in the same store. Both shoppers looked at the same bag. Only one of them understood what she was holding. 10 bags. One test applied to every single one. The shopper who trusts the logo and skips the check walks out with a bag that will reveal its limitations before the season ends. 2 minutes. 5 checks. Every single time. This channel follows the money, not the marketing. Click the next video on the left right now. We are breaking down the exact same comparison for Marshalls shoes, and the brands delivering genuine construction value in that aisle are even harder to spot than anything on this list.